name is Tracy Severance, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of DisruptED TV. I am joined today by two esteemed guests. We have Tara Martin and Jay Billy, and today we're going to be talking about the new books that they've written and the very important messages that they have to share. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank
Wonderful.
you. Nice to see you again.
It's exciting to see you. So you have congratulations
Thank
first.
you.
I mean, this is just I am envious and so taken by the fact that you sat down and you got that message out. So we really want to have this opportunity to talk about what inspired you to write your book. What is it you're hoping that will do for people? What are the messages that you have to share? And then maybe we'll get down to something that I think a lot of people want to know is, how did you do that? How did you actually sit down with either a notepad or that word processor or computer, whatever, and tell the story? So Tara, what if you start for us? Tell us a little bit about your book and your message.
Okay, awesome. So my book is titled Real, Be Real, Educate from the Heart. It's all about, REAL is an acronym, so being relatable, exposing vulnerability, always approachable, and learning through life. And honestly, the idea of being real came from a performance survey. So as an instructional coach, I often sent out a performance survey to all of the educators they served. And this was about 6 years ago. One of their responses was, I love it that you're just so real. Like, thank you, Tara, for just being real. And so I thought it was just an interesting comment. But it stuck with me, and I was like, man, that's a compliment. And that is something that I want to always bring, is just all of my personal strengths, experiences, and bring that to the table when you're serving the educators that you serve. And so I started thinking about it, and over the years, like, I love the real people that I meet. I know we're all living, but are we all really real? Like, can I really relate to you? Are you sharing vulnerable parts of your story that help me connect and make me not feel alone? And are you approachable? Like, do I feel nervous to be around you? And then, are you always learning? Is there never a plateau? Are you always like stretching yourself to grow and to learn? So when I started thinking about writing a book, I was like, well, it has to be about, well, when I started my blog actually 2 years ago, I was like, I know what I want to call it. I want to call it Real. Okay. Because I want everything that's shared on there to be real. And then I also want us to empower those that we serve to also bring all of their selves. Because the truth is, we're all so uniquely different. And until we understand that everyone's realness is very much a part of the whole, I think we can't truly change the world of education, because we're not standardized. And so we need to allow people to be who they are, to be real. And so the book is all about realness, obviously, but also my personal stories growing up as a child in a abusive home life, and then how I overcame some of those obstacles and then was able to serve the people, the educators and the students, and have empathy that I think educators that may have not experience that type of realness could understand. So it kind of talks a little bit about my history and then how I blended that to become the educator I am today. And then it doesn't stop with just my story. It's all about you and connecting with your realness and how to use that to empower those that you serve.
Wow. And so you brought your struggles, your background, your experience, and it sounds like your adversity really helped contribute to the clarity in your story and the importance of your message. So that led to that integrity and the message that you have to share. And something that is so interesting to me is you said that people often responded to you by saying, "Wow, you're so real." And what that said to me is how often people then must have engaged with people who they experienced as less than authentic, less than real. So, and you heard in that message and then put the acronym around that. That is amazing.
Agreed. And I think today, like in today's society, we have all the Facebook. I'm very much a social media advocate. I love it. You see me on Twitter like ridiculously. But I do think that a lot of times in society, they feel like the post has to be social media quality. And so they take out the realness because that would be too authentic. And so we post all of these things that aren't the reality, and it makes people feel like they can't connect. But the truth is, if we could just be real, especially educators, and of all fields, educators need to be real, because kids need to see this authenticity and how they have a lot to offer the world too. So it's an empowering story. It's not really all about me, but it's all about how we can use, like, we have all the tools we need within, we just need to use them.
Yeah. And that the strength then in those relationships are formed in part by our honesty and our vulnerability. It makes me think about some of the work Brene Brown's done and stuff around vulnerability, and that's how we bring our most genuine self forward and in our relationships. And that would seem like a great segue to your book then, Jay, right?
Yeah, and my book, Lead with Culture, What Really Matters in Our Schools, came about a little differently, but a lot the same. It came through experiences. Just as a school administrator for the past 20 years, I've kind of done a lot of things wrong. And so I try to tell the story of the mistakes I've made as well as the successes I've had to bring a positive culture to our school. And it really helped to reflect over the past 20 years what I did right, what other people do and have done that I've seen that I thought, I don't really like that, and I would want to do that differently. Or like I said, I've made plenty of mistakes too, so that's where it really comes from. I think people connected with the mistakes that I've made and said, yeah, that makes sense. Why, and then this is how I fixed it.
And that's interesting because, like, I hear that same theme of vulnerability, and that's where the people are connecting to that narrative, because I think there's something very intimidating about this perception of perfection. So when we say that this is just really who I am with all of my frailties, all of my fears, all of my worries, concerns, as well as strengths and gifts, that's what draws us in.
Agreed. I often, I got to visit Jay's school for the first time. I get to see it on Twitter all the time, and I love it. But I got to visit Slackwood Elementary yesterday for the first time, and I always say Jay is the real deal because I see him posting very real things from their school in the moment every day. And so that's why I think social media is a great tool for sharing realness, because if we can stop worrying about this perfect post to put out there and start sharing the stuff that's really happening, I think that's what people connect to. But at his school, he truly is, what he writes in that book is exactly what's happening there. It's when you walk in, you have this feeling. I told him I got to share like book snaps for one of his teachers and work with some second graders. I was like, but the truth is, I was only there for like 4 hours. What I took away from the school far exceeded anything that I contributed, because it's just such a feeling. Like, it almost gets me emotional because you don't feel that all the time when you walk into school.
That's very true.
So the culture is real, and it comes with real leadership and being able to be all of those things: relatable, expose vulnerability, always approachable, and learning through life. I think Jay is the real deal.
Yeah. Thank you, but and I say that so it's lead with culture, but it's really about how you feel when you walk in the door. And I've had people tell me, I walked in that school and it just felt yucky, and I never wanted that. And I tell the story in my book about my first staff meeting, where I probably would do it differently, but I was one of those people that walked into the school originally when I first was meeting the staff, and I said I never felt welcome here. Yeah. I never felt, this was the last school I wanted. I was the supervisor in the district before that, and I said every time I would walk in here, I wanted to get out of here as quickly as I could. Wow. And I don't want that to be our school. And I think over time, saying it kind of bluntly, they were shocked and hurt probably a little bit, but it put that thought in their mind that, if that's a perception, and I did learn that a lot of it was perception more than reality in some cases, but it puts that in the staff member's mind that, hey, we have to be different. We have to do this differently so people don't get that feeling. And as Tara said, now it's a happy place. It's a place where people come. I have parents write a piece in my book about it's just different. They want to be at school. The parents in the community, they want to come to our school for whatever we're doing, whether it's a fun event or something that's really specific to the academic part that we're doing. So I think that is, you want that feeling when people walk into your building. And if you don't get that feeling, you have to change.
Yeah.
And when writing the book, I probably asked more questions than I gave advice as far as, are you doing this? Can you do this? Think about this, and then maybe change to become better.
Well, so what really strikes me is that even in that first initial meeting with the faculty, you were so courageous and bold to speak that truth. So so many times, I think when new leaders come in, there's a lot of praise, even if it's kind of vacuous, and people know that. They say, oh, we're a great school, you're great, we're gonna be great together, we're all great, right? And everyone's like, yeah, okay. But you really threw what my husband calls the dead moose on the table. And you're like, look, this is it. This is from my firsthand perspective. This was your experience, and you named that and started with the truth. And you were saying that it went from a place that you experienced as cold to now that is experienced as warm. And so what we really have to make sure that we address, because if I was watching this, I'd be on the edge of my seat. The question we all want to know is how. Can you give us one example or a window into that transformation?
Well, interestingly enough, what you just said, that's the chapter. There's a chapter called Honesty Matters. Honesty matters. And you have to really say it. Say it. So if you have, you can say it in a nice empathetic way, which that probably wasn't the best way to do it, or you say it directly. And in that case, I used it directly. But more than that, then, calling it out when you see that. I have an office staff that is so welcoming. People come from other schools if they need things translated or done differently, because they know that it's a welcoming school. And so it starts the moment they walk in the door. You smile at people, you say hello to people, you make sure that you greet people in a positive way. Same with the teachers. When the child's walk in, I'm out there high-fiving every kid as they get off the bus every day, wearing silly hats and doing all. Wearing Tara got to wear one yesterday. But doing those kind of things because you want that smile to start the day, and giving people time and listening. Yes. So a part of it is getting people to understand who you are, and then getting to know them, and kind of so everybody has a common ground of where you want the school to go. I want my school to be talked about by all the other schools. I want parents from other schools wishing their kids went to my school. And if you're a teacher, you should want every kid in the second grade wishing they were in your class instead of another class. And if you have all your teachers doing that, then you have a really good thing going on. And the goal is to get there. So really having those discussions about culture, but then moving into the academics and the social piece to really support the children too. And from the moment I went there, we talked about family. Family, we are a family. And when I do kindergarten orientation, that's the first thing I say, welcome to the family. And when the parents are all sitting there, I say, welcome to the family. Once you're part of the Slackwood family, you're part of something special. And so you talk about it and it becomes that, because everybody follows that lead. The parents coming in feel welcomed. We try to create experiences that make them wish they were still in school. You know, and that's really important.
Wow.
It's really important.
So when you first went to that faculty meeting and you talked about what you experienced and what you observed, you didn't just say to the faculty, so we need to make this a warm and wonderful place. So you need to smile and you need to, you know, be more, create more intentional, positive relationships with kids. What I'm hearing is that you did that. You took that on, and then you could be seen by every member of that educational community outside, you know, high-fiving kids, welcoming parents, and that your words matched your actions. So you certainly not just spoke your truth, but then you lived it. And then it sounds like that just really got the momentum going, and then it builds on each other, because when I see you being kind and warm and welcoming, then I am too. So you said your front office is and your teachers are, and I heard Tara, you were saying in the break that the kids were too.
Oh
that
my
it
goodness,
just becomes
yes.
really deeply woven into the way we do things here.
Yeah, and that was that's important. You know, it's important. I have to be me, and I can't work in a place where there's that negativity, that feeling. So, you know, I said it, and then we modeled it. But interestingly enough, I'm moving to a new school in the fall, and the first faculty meeting was different a little bit. But what I said was, you know, I'm not the savior. It's us. We are going to make this place that kind of school where everybody does it, because you know, everybody wants to be that person. They don't want to be negative. I think sometimes the culture turns that way when there's not the positive features brought out as well as rewarded. You know, but like as Tara said with the kids, I mean, kids are kind. They're nice. And we take that from them sometimes with our strict rules and our strict things, instead of being nice back to them, getting them to be kind and considerate. The school was always called the Golden Hearted School, but I wanted to model that, and I wanted everybody in the building to model that too. And I think we became that. We really became that, and are that still.
I think too, like, so with visiting the school, when he just said, you know, we don't put the strict parameters on everything. And I love that about the classrooms. They're engaging. I went into a kindergarten class yesterday, and they're like, come sit with us. We're doing introductions and dancing. So like, as they say your name, you have to stand up and do a dance. I'm like, oh, this is so fun, you know, like, so I got to be a part of the circle, stand up, dance, whatever. But another thing that I love, and that's just such a warm welcoming, but I feel like they probably learned a warm welcoming from Jay greeting people at the buses with silly, fun stuff. So the first thing they do in the classroom, they were sitting in a circle. I'm sure they don't do that every day, but they were doing that this day. And in the hallway, it wasn't like they were standing like soldiers with their hands behind their back and not saying a word. They saw me pass by. I was in their classroom earlier. They're like, Mrs. Martin. Like, I'd been there like a million times. Reaching out, giving me hugs. Their teacher never said, you get back in line. Like, don't greet them. That's not acceptable. You know, it's just like it was a family. It wasn't disorder. It was very orderly, but they were all giving me love, and then they got back in their little line and headed outside. But I think it takes intention. It's Jay said there's a chapter in his book about being intentional, creating a culture of this family feel. And I think that's what I think you have to be intentional, to be real, to be true to who you really are too, because the world and social media and all these things try to pull us in another direction, to try to show the best of everything. And sure, there's great things, but there's also things that we need to share that aren't so great. So, and that's how we connect to real humans. So anyway.
And Jay, you were talking about being intentional about developing the we. And your work, it seems to me, sounds being intentional about being the best me. And so, you know, it's a fascinating connection to me, what both of you are saying, because we really need both. So for us to develop a warm, welcoming culture where we can be together, we also need to be our best selves, our most authentic selves.
Totally. Well, think about it. If everyone is their best me, because my book is about everyone being the best me, right? Not me being the best me.
Right.
But if everyone is their best me, then isn't that the team that you really want, with all those diversities, all those strengths, all of those experiences, life experiences? Because think about all the people you can connect with if everyone
I love
is
that.
their collective best me.
Because it becomes the best we.
Right.
That's your next book.
Yay, bam.
You are welcome. I just gave you that.
We. Be looking for it.
Very nice.
That's awesome. You know, and to not get nerdy or anything, but you talk about Hattie's work and collective efficacy. Just because I talk about this quite a bit recently, teacher collective efficacy is a 1.59 effect.
Huge.
Which is one of the largest, the second largest now and is newest. But when everybody believes in that and is okay with that, when everybody has a common vision and they want to be that, and they want to be the best they can be, and I believe she's the best, and I believe you're the best, and I believe she's the best, you're getting closer to that collective efficacy. And so you're going to see that in a school like that. You're going to see that in your test results. You're going to see that in your behavior manifestations. You're going to see all of that. When everybody believes in everybody else that's in your building, you have that collective efficacy, and you have the best chance of having a successful school.
Right. It reminds me of when Vivian Robinson and her colleagues write about, you know, we're familiar with the vicious cycle that draws us deeper and deeper into despair, and we debase each other, we become lower. And she talks about the virtuous circle where we get better and better and better. I love that idea. So
Yes.
when I improve me and share openly with you, and you weave that into yourself and get better, and that we just, it really is so exciting that we can turn, you know, so many schools are characterized by their complaints and their, you know, and what they see is everything that's wrong. And when we can see everything that's right in each other, then we can change the direction of what happens.
And that's one of the things about education. Unfortunately, with social media and newspapers and you know, they try to sensationalize the bad, and there's so much good that's going on every day, and when we use social media, we want to share that good. I want to be transparent. So as I say, I tweet from classrooms, I tweet from playground, I tweet things that, because parents want to see their kids engaged in doing activities, but I also do it because there is so much good going out there. And when somebody, you know, does something really silly in this far-reaching place, or even, you know, close, you know, I want to take care of it, fix it, and move on. And because there is so much good in our education system, and we need to share that, because the negative can overpower the positive so easily. So you won't see that anywhere. You talked about those negative voices and what was it, the
vicious cycle,
vicious cycle.
the virtuous circle.
Yeah. You know, we want to share that virtuous circle. We want to share that special thing that makes our school special, and the parents appreciate that. They appreciate that their kid goes to a school where the teachers love them, and we use the word love. You know, we talk about that because it's so important that you know, they love their kids, but we love them differently. You know, we want to embrace them, and they're our kids. You know, and just because Johnny's in her class, he's my kid still,
Right.
and I wanted to make that part of our school too. It's not just, you know, it's our school,
Right.
and our kid. You know, there's a piece of paper on the floor. It's not the custodian's job to pick it up. It's everybody's job to
Right.
pick it up. And we wanted to build that this is our home, second home
Yes.
for many of the kids.
So one of the things that he was talking about is just one of my favorite, well, not my favorite quote, but a quote from my book. I talk about exposing vulnerability is not about glorifying your failures. It's really about celebrating what comes next. And I do think that it's great to share, like, wow, I often tell Jay, like, oh my gosh, that was so bad. Like, I don't know why I did that. That was crazy. But it wasn't, I will talk about that for a minute, but next time, I'm telling you about the lessons that I learned and all the things that I'm going to be doing next, which is that cycle that you were talking about, moving up and always stretching for the new best thing. Yes, we're gonna fall, we're gonna fail. But I don't know, I kind of a little bit have a problem with people that post like their failures on the wall. I've seen this like on Twitter. They're like celebrating their failures. And I'm like, no, like, what did you learn from that? And what are you
what's
gonna
next?
What are you gonna cannonball in the water to do next?
Right.
You know? And I think it's important that we remember that. That's how we build that culture of never reaching a plateau and never feeling like I've failed so miserably that I can't get back up. In fact, and I know we are probably out of time, but this is the coolest thing. He had a senior in high school come and give their 3rd grade promotion guest speaker event yesterday. What was her name again? Zulima. Precious. But what I loved about her is she said, she was all dressed up, you know, with her hair tied back and everything. And she goes, one thing that Slackwood Elementary has taught me is just to be me. She goes, this is not me. And then she like started taking her clothes off and I was like, oh, this is awesome. Actually, I was like, this is crazy awesome. I don't know what she's wearing, but this is going to be great. But then she got down to a t-shirt and her comfortable clothes. She's like, and that's what I hope you guys will be. Be who you really are. And so that to me just tells me that the culture that we want and we crave means that everyone collectively needs to become real and who they really are. So it's not about being sad about messing up, but it's about what came next and then how do I bring all the wonderful things that I have to offer to the table.
Sure, that's where the lessons are learned, yeah. And it builds that resiliency and resourcefulness that we all need. So and then what's after that?
Yep.
And this was so helpful because tomorrow I have to give a graduation speech.
Oh, fantastic.
At the middle school where I was the principal for many years, and now I'm thinking about my outfit. So what am I going to wear? What am I going to change into? I mean, or the message. It just sounds like your students' message was so powerful, and really to speak to the students to where they are, and to talk about now that you're turning that page, what adventures lie ahead, and don't expect the road to be smooth or the journey to be easy, but learn life's lessons and then bring them to the chapter that lies beyond that.
I love it.
Wow, wonderful.
So fun.
Well, this is a great conversation. I feel like we could just keep going, clear to lunch. So very inspiring. And so what we'd like to do is to ask you to look into the camera and share information where someone could reach you should they wish to continue the conversation with you. All right, so just there you go.
Yeah, so my name is Tara Martin. You can find me on Twitter at TaraMartinEDU. And you can also find us at daveburgessconsulting.com. Both Jay and I's books are advertised there, as well as our websites. But please do visit my website, which is tarammartin.com. And you can find a lot of resources for the book, including a study guide and different resources for each part of the book that you may or may not want to share with your students or staff about being real.
And I'm Jay Billy, and you can find me on Twitter at JAYBILLY2. And I'm still principal in Lawrence Township. I'll be at Ben Franklin Elementary School next year, which is a new adventure for me. But you can find me an email, the letter J, BILLY, at LTPS, L as in Lawrence Township Public Schools.org. And yes, the book is Lead with Culture, What Really Matters in Our Schools, and I hope that you'll find something inspiring in there. As I said, there's a lot more questions than answers a lot of times, but I really talk about being purposeful and intentional and honest in making our schools better.
And our books are sold on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, so you can also find them there.
All right, this has been an inspiring episode of DisruptED TV. My name is Dr. Tracy Severns, and I want to thank Tara Martin and Jay Billy for talking with us about how to be the best me and how to be the best we. And I hope that you have something that you can bring back to your school. Thank you.